friend. How are you?
I'm lekker, Andre. How are you, man?
Yeah, I'm so lekker. Nice to see you. And
Great to see you as always.
yeah, man, thanks. I'm actually quite excited about our conversation today. We will be talking about content creation, like what kind of content should you be creating for your business? So this is going to be a good topic. Welcome to people tuning in. And yeah, if you are watching and listening, maybe just drop your name in the comments and where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, let us know. We're here to help. So if you've got any marketing, business related questions, happy to help where we can. It'll be nice to engage with you and get to know you a little bit better and share some value. So Jono, my friend, really keen on today's topic. Thank you for actually suggesting it. And I think you've been into the content game for quite some time now as well. So keen to explore this further with you.
Yeah, it's honestly my favorite part of business. And I think it's something that, every entrepreneur struggles with. It's a source of huge anxiety. And I think with clarity, it can be a source of tremendous lead generation and revenue creation. And it's also a way to explore your own ideas and find what really to find your own voice in your industry and in your niche. So it's a very important topic, I think, for everyone.
100%, man. So I think from my point of view, obviously I've got a lot to share. I've been in the content, I'd say, space now, for quite some time. And for the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been doing it aggressively for the V8 brand and the Andre brand. So there's some insights that I'm happy to share. But where would you like to start, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is kind of what does the content universe look like? Because when we say content, I feel like we should talk about the different elements of content. Why do we produce content? Maybe that's the first thing. So what are the different applications for content? And for me, it's if you look at your business in terms of a sales funnel, you should never produce content. I mean, you can produce content that's fun and, on your own private Instagram page just because, you want to show your friends something cool that you've done. But if you're doing it for business, there really should be a purpose behind each element. And so it's about brand building. It's about, and then it's about generating leads and making sales. And there are different types of content for each part of that journey. I mean, how do you see it?
Yeah, so I think content, I break it up into 3 categories for myself and my team and how I usually think about it. Like for me, it needs to be valuable in a way, because the macro goal is to drive attention and to drive leads and sales for businesses, right? That's the macro view. But then I think the layer under it, how I look at it, is that there's different components that will help you get that right. So the goal is to drive attention. The goal is to ensure that attention converts into leads and sales. But there's a lot of things that needs to happen for that to materialize. And the first thing is that you kind of have to share some form of value. Like nobody's going to opt in, or nobody's going to really reach out to you in order for you to help them or buy a product or service that might be a solution to a pain that they have, if they're not convinced that you're actually competent enough to do that. So value helps, break that barrier and get them to understand that this is a competent human being on the other side who might be able to add value to my life. The other thing is that we live in a world where AI is taking over. There's so much noise in this world as well. Like there was a lot of noise prior AI, but now there's even just tenfold that. And the one mechanism that we focus on is authenticity. So I think content is a great way to show who you truly, are as a human being. It showcases your personality. It showcases how you think about life and the world, etc. And that essentially builds trust and credibility with whomever is on the other side of that piece of content. So value is great, but value you can generate through AI. And I think if you want to amplify that, you can do that through a level of authenticity as well. And then lastly, it's from our point of view, it's almost like resonating with people. Like people want to resonate with you essentially. They want to know that you've had the similar struggles, you've had similar pain points, or you've gone through this process a few times. that makes them feel like you're human enough to approach and actually have a conversation with.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think it's just entertaining. Like, I think being entertaining can help you hold more attention and get more attention. So those 4 elements I think about all the time. And actually, if I have to break it down into 3 for our YouTube videos, we do a lot of behind the scene vlogs, or we started now. And then I think we're on episode 2. Episode 3 should be airing today or tomorrow. And one thing I always ask the producer and the editor, and I say, listen, 3 things we need to consider in this piece of content. Is it valuable? Is it relatable? Or is it entertaining? If it's not any of those 3 things, don't add it to the video, because there's no point.
Yeah.
So is it valuable? Is it entertaining? Or is it relatable? If you can get those 3 things across, I believe that attention, will be on you and will be retained. And then you have the opportunity to convert that into actual leads and sales for your business.
Yeah, I mean, I read an article like a decade ago about Jamie Oliver, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a chef by trade originally, and so Jamie Oliver was like the first person I looked up to. And I thought, hey, maybe I could be like that guy one day. And they said Jamie Oliver is the unsung king of content creation, and the article was about how he lives, breathes, eats, and sleeps the 3 E's of content creation, which are to entertain, empower, and to educate. And so they make sure that every single piece of content is educational, empowering. Well, it's firstly entertaining and educational, and then empowering. And I think like empowering is where it gets great. And I think the way that you empower through a video changes at your various stages in the funnel. And what empowering means is like, gives someone an action to take, or like tells them what to do. Like now they can do X. And so sometimes it's like, oh, well, now I'll look at my child differently, or I'll approach Facebook ads differently after watching a piece of content. But sometimes it's as clear as fill in the form and we will send you the thing. For empowerment. There's something else I want to, carry on.
It's a very powerful framework, I think, at the end of the day. And I think we spoke about this as content creation anxieties, that often we believe that we're wondering what kind of content we need to be creating. So you go by, I've been in a situation back in the day, and sometimes I still find myself in a situation where I've got everything ready. Like I've went and bought a mic, and I've went and bought a new camera or whatever. I'm like, I want to do content. And then as you plan the day, you're like, what the fuck am I going to say?
Yeah.
What am I trying to do? Where do I go with this? So I was usually the one who would go and spend all of the money on equipment, and then go, what do I say? Like, I actually am not ready to actually share anything. And then that level of anxiety obviously comes with content. And I think a lot of business owners find themselves in the same kind of situation. And then on top of that, there's a different, view to anxiety, where you look at people like you said earlier, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Alex Hormozi, and they do hundreds of thousands of pieces of content per year. And it becomes like 20 pieces of content per day to 30 pieces of content on day across multiple channels. And you go, geez, how the hell are we ever going to get that right? And even if you got to a level where you produce that kind of volume, the anxiety lies in what the hell are we going to tell people, And I think what you said, educate, empower, entertain, the 3 E's, is such a beautiful framework that helps you reduce that level of anxiety, because you can go, cool, I've got an actual framework that I can run my thoughts and processes and my ideas through. And, whatever fits into those 3 categories, that's good enough to put into the world.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of this framework that I've worked on with a few clients, and it is this idea that every what's his name, Russell Brunson, talks about every movement has a fearless leader, and the key is to know what that movement stands for and what it stands against. And basically, if you can identify like the 4 most important things to you as a business, like what you care about the most, and find like 2 or 3 things that you really hate. And hate's obviously a strong word. Like, what is the enemy? Because every movement has something like a clear vision for the future. They have a clear enemy, and then they have a solution or a new way of a new view on something. And if you can identify what those 3 main things are and break them down, then you can create just tons of content about that. And so, sometimes the villain doesn't need to be a specific person or organization. It can be like, being late with your tax can be the villain, or having like a dirty, if you were running ads for a business that sold like plumbing services or something, it could be like, never get a blocked toilet ever again. Like bad plumbing and blocked drainage is the villain, and we stand against that. And if you really get emotionally invested in the problem that you're solving, the solution that you provide, and like the clear vision that you see, you can actually develop like endless content about it. Because if you just take the one thing, like what is the vision that you see? If it's, and I'm going to use plumbing because it's actually a difficult example, but if it's like the perfect clean smelling house all the time, then you could talk about how a customer had their problem solved. You can talk about like a technique that you've used to make sure that the plumbing never gets blocked up. You can talk about how it's not something that you should ever have to worry about, and you should just be able to push a button on your app. You can talk about the clear vision for the future, like when you sell the house, you have our plumbing solution will increase the value, and that's the vision that you see for the future. And then to talk about the pain points is easy. Like you can just talk about every single plumbing problem that anyone has ever had, and people can relate. Like when you're planning a dinner party or it's a 40th or something, and you have like 30 people come through your house, like what's the last thing on earth you need? And that is a blocked loo. You've got expensive canapes, and everyone's trying to enjoy the food, and now there's a blocked toilet, and we know what that means. You can go to town on that. And so if you just write down those 7 things and then develop like 5 different approaches to talk about those 7 things, you've got 35 pieces of content straight away. And you can just retell those. So Gary Vaynerchuk, he says that you need to find your like 7 things, and you tell each of those 7 stories in 100 different ways, and you will like never run out of things to say ever again.
I want to believe that. I think there's a cool book I read. I think it was 2017, 2016. It was called My Story Brand.
Yeah.
And it was I can't remember what the guy's name was who wrote it. But
Donald Miller.
There we go. Amazing.
Yeah.
Donald Miller, My Story Brand. The book is just about how to tell a story with your content and how to tell a story with your business. And I think like everybody has a business. That business has to tell a story, and how you're going to tell that story is through content. Okay, so content and brand is really the same thing in a way. It's just one serves, the other, and I think they obviously intertwine and connected. So, My Story Brand, amazing book for anybody who is keen to understand how to tell really cool stories and how to create content. That'll be great because it teaches about the villain and the journey and the hero. And I think a lot of people, when they create content, they want to make themselves the hero. They want to be the person who is on the pedestal. They want to be the person who is seen as the expert, and it's all about me and how did I look in this video and what did I say in that video. But in theory, if you really understand human psychology, like people care about themselves. They don't care about you. They don't care about how you look and how you dress. And yes, so some of those things can be influential. But at the end of the day, people want information that's going to help them become a better version of themselves, help them run a better business, and solve the pain point that they have in their lives selfishly. Yeah. And that's just a great book for anybody to read.
I strongly agree with you, actually. So I read, so he's actually updated that book now, and it's called Story Brand 2.0, or Building a Story Brand 2.0. So I didn't read the original, I read the 2.0 one. And that's actually the fundamental difference. So I suppose it's worth pointing out at this point, there are many different philosophies when it comes to content creation. And Donald Miller and Russell Brunson differ in that Russell Brunson talks about being the fearless leader and the expert, and essentially being the hero as the leader. And what Donald Miller says is exactly what you just said. If you frame the customer as the hero, and he uses the Star Wars example, like everyone in the business, most entrepreneurs think they're Luke Skywalker, but actually the best entrepreneurs are the ones who are Yoda and position their customer as Luke Skywalker, because Luke Skywalker doesn't know everything. He's he's trying to become the hero, and so he needs a Yoda to guide him to find this breakthrough.
I wonder if they're saying the same thing, they're just labeling it differently, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like when you say that you have to be the hero that leads a movement, that movement is there to empower the people who are essentially the heroes of their own story. So it's almost like it's almost that's the same thing, but it's not. I feel like it's so close to being the same thing, but the word choices that we use and how we define it creates the contrast, even though they both probably believe the same thing in some way, if that makes sense.
Well, I've got a great example there, and Real Meal Revolution, the Banting movement, was a classic example of this. Tim Noakes was definitely the fearless leader and sort of the wise man behind the whole thing. But one of the things that in fact, it ended up being the catchphrase for the business, which was "take back your power." And essentially, what he was saying was, your doctor is telling you X about your health. Your dietitian has told you you need to eat a certain way, and all of these people who have been anointed as the authorities have been giving you bad advice. And the food manufacturers are marketing to you in a certain way, promising you, less fat and whatever. And what he said was, by learning this framework, you take the power out of all of these authorities' hands, and now you possess the power. And so that's why it created such a visceral reaction, because these people all of a sudden felt empowered and educated by the content, and then they went off and kind of carried the flag. People got so invested that they had like 100 cookbooks in their house, and the cookbook that was on the stand in their kitchen was the red Real Meal Revolution. Like they wanted to brand themselves with it and say, I'm with Tim.
Doing
and they were the heroes. Yeah.
I remember that. I mean, we had that book actually. I mean, this was before I knew you. I mean, you were solely responsible for all the cauliflower shortage back in whenever it was.
That's true, actually.
So,
I forgot about that now.
We can blame you. But if I reflect on this conversation, and I think just the people listening, is like we can obviously agree that content is basically at the pinnacle of what you need in order to market your business, right? I mean, people talk about paid ads, they talk about all different kinds of stuff, influencer marketing, UGC, these are all just, I feel, bottom level tactics. But at the macro view, we've got content, and without content, you can't run ads. Without content, you're not going to be indexed through search engine optimization. Without content, like almost feel that nothing is really going to happen if you don't have content, if you're not visually out there in the world. If you visually on social media, that is defined as content. The question is just like, how should you be, what kind of content should you be creating? And just to summarize this segment, I think people need to understand that, it's about the consumer, the person that you're trying to target. That person, they care about themselves. They want to be the hero of their own journey. And it's about you enabling them and empowering them in order to achieve that goal that they've set out for themselves. And I think the best way to connect with them is through telling stories. And I think you've mentioned something really powerful that's worth reiterating, is that, if your content can help educate, empower, and entertain, then you can almost use that as a qualifying mechanism whether you should be putting out what you want to put out. So if you saying, I want to put out a video today, ask yourself, is it going to educate someone? Is it going to empower someone? Or is it going to entertain someone? If it can do all three, amazing. But at least do one or two of those things before you put it out into the world.
Yeah, two, at least 2 out of 3. You got to go 2 out of 3.
Exactly. So we've got some people just saying, like Stefan Jacobs, he's just want to acknowledge that we've got some people watching from Cape Town. Mark Kutsia connected and commented, and I'll send you the playbook link. Is the worst concept for adult ADHD. Yeah, it's true. And then we've got Armando. How's it, my brother? I hope you're well. Yeah, Andre, would you recommend WhatsApp lead campaigns for a car salesman or a normal lead form? I feel like WhatsApp ads work better because you don't have to chase the customer; they chase with you. Like, I would love to answer that question for you. I just don't want to sidetrack what we've got going. But I think a short note will be, we always test both. We always test both from our point of view, because we've seen some people are really efficient on WhatsApp. So it depends on what systems you've built into your WhatsApp strategy. Like if you have got a one-man band who's got a busy schedule and he has to be replying to those WhatsApp messages, well, good luck converting those leads, because he's probably not going to be able to get to them in time. He's not going to be able to respond effectively, and so forth. So you need to make sure that you've got people who's ready to respond, or at least a system or an AI bot that can contextualize, the information and give them the necessary answers based on the questions that they might have. And then lead forms are great. I like lead forms because you're still collecting an email address, a contact number, a name. So you're getting a bit more information about the person before you start having a conversation with them. So both have advantages. I'd suggest try both. We have seen that WhatsApp can be very powerful because of the engaging factor. So you're building trust and credibility a lot quicker. So in a world where people don't trust anyone, WhatsApp is great purely because the speed to trusting someone is dramatically increased. Because the moment you're having a conversation with someone, you can pick up their tone, you can pick up who they are. The moment you send a voice note, you feel more connected, and you just feel like this is a person whose number you can store in your contacts. And then the moment you do that, there's a level of trust and credibility that comes with it. So definitely would look at that. And then lastly, Digital Universe watching from Pretoria. Nice to have you, my friend. I hope there's some value. If you guys have any questions, again, see there's a bunch of people watching. So if you've got questions, don't be shy. Drop it in the comments. We're not going to bite. There's no wrong questions, and there's hopefully, there might be, there's no wrong answers, but there are good ones and bad ones, I suppose. But we'll try our best to keep it on the good side. So we'll try our best.
Go for
it. No, I was
going to say like
our segment of content creation.
Okay. One of the things that I think we should have mentioned in the beginning in the why, like why do we produce content? And I think the simplest explanation is to lower cost per acquisition at the end of the day. Like if you can produce the way that you can tell that your content, or at least your marketing strategy, is working, is if it's lowering your cost per acquisition. And just for example, like if you have a book out and you've done public talks and people have seen you on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and you are emailing people, and each one of those pieces of content that they've engaged with has lowered your, then by the time you send them an ad to convert.
When you said write a book, so did we. Content essentially is all about building brand, and what you're saying is brand essentially will help you lower those costs of acquisition, cost of leads.
Yeah. And so if you're just sending an ad to sell, like you've got to do a lot of work in that ad to make sure that it is an effective sales tool. And as you know, you can run bottom of the funnel ads and make sales, but over time, over a 3-year period, you're gonna build up a lot more consistent, or at least a more consistent low cost per acquisition if you have brand, because people will just naturally be ready to pay you if they've seen you around. Whereas if they haven't seen you around, they have to learn all about you and be convinced. So for me, it's very difficult to measure how effective your top of funnel content is. But if you've done it for 6 months and you notice a general lowering of your total cost per acquisition, I think that's a good indication of whether or not your content's working. But I don't know if you have anything to say about that. Otherwise, we can always move to paid versus organic.
No, so I think from my point of view, content, like you say, it's hard to measure if it's really making you revenue or not, right? But one thing I can tell you is, and this is verbatim words from the salespeople that work at V8. People who jump on a call with the agency staff will tell them, we've been following V8 for the last 2 or 3 years. There are literally people who go, I've been following Yandre's journey since he started in 2018. I actually didn't have a business at that time. Now I do. And you guys are the first people I thought of that can be able to help me. Now, obviously, that comes with the responsibility of actually being able to do that for them. But the reality is, it's so nice to know that when people jump on a call, they already have an idea of who we are, what we do, what we're good at, and what level of benefit and service we can offer them. Because that speeds up the whole process, right? You don't have to now go and convince someone. You don't have to go and explain too much. We've had people literally, and I don't lie, like we've had people jump on a call saying, I know exactly what you guys do and what you're capable of. I just want to know the price.
Yeah.
And then they give the price and they go, cool, let's start. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't people who have no idea who we are. There's still a lot of people who don't. And I'm actually grateful for that. But the reality is that in essence, building a level of content, it's hard to track in a 30-day window or a 60-day window or even over a 12-month period. However, the stronger your brand gets, the lower your cost per acquisition and your cost per lead will be. We've actually seen that our cost per lead in the agency and the cost per acquisition has stayed very much the same over the last few years. And I believe it's because every year the brand gets a bit stronger. So even though cost of acquisition rises because of advertising demand and more advertisers jumping on these platforms, I would like to believe that for us, it's staying the same because the brand is getting stronger, which then pushes back and keeps it in a healthy range. So that's just my take on that. And I 100% agree because I'm a testament of it.
Yeah, totally. Now, what is your view between paid and organic? Like if you were new on the content journey and someone had just been running ads to sell, what is that a question there? Okay, just getting some love.
Yeah, this is a classic example from a front shot. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So lucky to hear from you, my friend. Love your content. I've been following you in V8 for a few years now. So as I was saying that, and we really appreciate the love, and it'll be good to get to know you better. If you've got any questions, please let us know. But that's literally what I'm talking about, right? Is people are they're not putting themselves out there, and I think the more you do it, in the specific, obviously, philosophy that we're speaking about now, you will start to build more brand. And over time, the problem is people are just not consistent, like because we're so short-term focused. You know, when I started my YouTube channel last year, March, which is the first time I've actually did it. I've done it on and off, on and off, on and off. And then I said to myself, I am going to do it for 12 months straight and not come up for air until I've finished the 12 months deadline. And for 12 months straight, I just did content, didn't really pay attention to the views, didn't really pay attention to what people say. It's like, I'm going to do this for 12 months. And after 12 months, I looked up and I went, okay, cool. We're on 8,000 subscribers. Is that good or bad? I don't know. But it's a good enough indication that it's obviously, working and that people are obviously enjoying it. So now I know I've got an objective metric that I should continue doing more of it. And I think so many people stop after 60 days going, oh, you know what? Nobody is really watching. Is it really worth it? What's the returns on this? And I think from my side, nothing is more important than creating content for me right now. So there's only 3 things I spend my day with: creating content, networking, making deals. If something doesn't fall into those 3 categories, I don't do it. And I promise you now, if you had to ask Gary Vee or Alex Hormozi and all these very successful human beings that we all aspire to, content creation is at the top of the 3 things that they focus on. Now, I'm not saying that they sit there for 6 hours recording content, but they have built frameworks that allows them to record content while they do what they need to do on a daily basis. That's why Gary Vee has a whole team following him around religiously to record, if he says something valuable, that it is recorded. Same with Alex, and so forth. So I just wanted to share that perspective.
Yeah, that's true. And it's also, it's important to note that like for a whole day of shooting, which is probably every day for Gary, if you're filming someone for 8 hours and they're producing 4 pieces of content, that's in terms of like a percent of what they're saying versus, how much of that is valuable. It's a very, very small percent. And I think a lot of people get very worried about thinking of valuable things to say. And I suppose what's really helped me in the past is to look at every time you've had a conversation with a client who you've helped, because often if you're talking to your team, you're talking about stuff that you always know, and it's very easy to actually start feeling dumb. I find that when I'm growing, I feel really dumb because I'm learning all this new information and I don't feel confident in it. And so the only time I really feel intelligent is when I speak to someone who's like not in the game, and to watch them react to something that I say, and they're like, "Wow, like that's insane." And so I often talk to people about what I do, and they're like, "Wow, like that's incredible. You're so talented," or something. And like, none of my colleagues ever say that. And I certainly never feel that way. And so if you think about every time you've told someone who's not in your industry something and they've thought it was interesting, like those are things to document.
Yeah, I think we all have imposter syndrome on some level. That's kind of like what I'm hearing you say indirectly. I'm not sure if that is what you're alluding to, but
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome in terms of like, when you create content, you're going, am I really good enough to be sharing this kind of piece of information? Like, what are people going to think? So, I was there. I'm still there sometimes. Like, and I've spoken at AdWorld, which is one of the biggest, largest, marketing events in the world. It's a situation where sometimes I still feel like I've got some level of imposter syndrome, especially in the networks and the relationships that I'm building now. I'm speaking to people who are worth billions, and I'm sitting there going, like, I'm so broke. Like, how can I give this guy advice on marketing? Like, he's probably got, or business. Like, I can't even start to begin to tell him on how to build a direct to consumer brand. But
exactly.
That's what I've realized, and what you also alluded to, is that you don't need to know everything. You just need to know more than who you're speaking to. And
Malcolm Gladwell says it best. He says you don't have to be an expert when you start writing a book, but you should be an expert when you finish. And if you think about that with a post, like, you don't have to be. So exactly what you said. Like, everyone feels like in order for them to say something on social media, they need to be the expert of everything. And you don't. Like, you just need to be the expert on that tiny little comment, because no one knows like the wealth of your knowledge. So if you think, if you see one interesting thing in your ad account that's interesting, like, wow, I put out 5 ads for the same product, and the one that I didn't expect to win beat the others. Like, that is an insight that other people will find interesting. And even if you don't understand why, you can share that as a piece of content and people will find that interesting. And so I think, if you don't need to be an expert at the beginning of your content journey. You just need to know what you're talking about for each post. And when you start writing that post, you don't even have to know what you're talking about. But when you finish the post, you should at least understand the post that you're posting.
That's like, you learn a lot quicker, right? This book we wrote in, I don't know if you know, but I think this book we wrote in 2018, Gilbert and I.
Nice.
And it's called Adjust, which is the idiot-proof guide to understanding what the WTF is happening in advertising today. And we walked into a meeting with, I think it was Nedbank, and they didn't take us seriously. We were 6 months old as an agency. We had a very high level of self-belief, but it wasn't good enough, obviously, to get the contract. And I said to Gil, never, ever do I want to walk again into a meeting and people don't know who we are. Like, that hurts my ego so much when they were like, who are you? I was like, and they had no reason to know who I was. Like, really, they didn't. But for some reason, that hurt me so much emotionally. Like, maybe my ego was just a bit sensitive. I was like, fuck that. Like, no one. Hopefully, the amount of times that I walk into a meeting and people don't know who we are will get less and less and less. And funny enough, that started to happen. But it all started with a book, because I didn't know what other content to create. And funny enough, I do like writing. And we wrote this book, and every time we walked into a meeting, people didn't know who we are. But the moment I gave them a book, they were like, oh, wow, okay, that's cool. You guys have published something. That's really interesting. So immediately the trust and credibility factor went up. And in 2020, we ran this as a lead magnet, which was a piece of content that we did. That's kind of like when we started to become more recognized in the industry. So as you were saying, like, I had huge imposter syndrome when I did this book. If you go back to my first videos on Instagram back in 2018, when I started the agency, it is so cringe. Back then, like, obviously I knew a lot about marketing, but I wasn't a business owner. I even felt weird. And I felt like I had imposter syndrome when I spoke about business, because I was a marketer that was really good at what I did. And yes, I had built 1 or 2 small businesses, but by no means was I someone who actually built like a 10, 20, 100 million rand business. And I still remember those videos. I was like, oh, should I post it? Should I not? And I think we just need to overcome that fear and realize, like, just put it out there and get feedback and even get better, because the quicker you can do that, the quicker you're actually going to be growing. It's the resistance to the pain of the imposter syndrome, to people's comments, that's actually holding you back, and that's not allowing you to grow. So when you get accustomed to that pain and you're just comfortable with it and you go, fuck it, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to be myself. And if it turns out that people hate who I am, so be it. And that was a very peaceful moment for me. Like, when I decided that I don't need other people's validation. If they have good things to say about me, I would obviously love it and I would appreciate it and I would like to help where I can. If they've got bad things to say about me, also, I still love you. You don't know who I am. It's okay. Like, make your comments. and that's fine. And I think that level of peace has allowed me to double up and ramp up my levels of content. And I think that's the first barrier that people have to overcome when they start creating content for their businesses, is realizing just detach from it. Like, people are going to say something, you are going to get comments and hate and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. Detach, do your thing, get the feedback, get better. 2 years from now, you're going to look back and be so grateful that you did it.
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that makes you feel better, or should make you feel better, is that bad content doesn't get a lot of views. So your first pieces of the content are going to get seen by like your friends and family. And if they've got a problem with it, you should, question whether or not they're your friends. You can't choose your family. And so like, even if it's your first 100 posts, you only get like 500 views, that's fine. But you have to know that if you put out bad content, no one's going to see it. Just because it's in the internet doesn't mean
the algorithm is designed to share content that people want to see. So if you post bad, rest assured, and you can be safe knowing that not a lot of people will see it.
No one. And then let the algorithm tell you, like, when you've posted something good, lots of people see it, but lots of people only see it if it's good. So it's a win-win. And if like a moderate amount of people see it, it means it was moderately good. And if it's brilliant, then you've got nothing to be ashamed of. Like, Instagram's never going to take a post of you being a total idiot, unless your intention is to be a total idiot, and show it to like 1 million people. You won't be embarrassed. And so that's something to just be aware of. If you go, even now, like, guys, so there's a guy on YouTube who I follow called TD Bricks. He's the best Lego YouTuber ever. I absolutely love him. Like, my kids aren't allowed to watch YouTube unless I'm holding the phone. And so we watch these 8-minute TD Bricks videos. They are insane. And he started putting videos on YouTube about 10 years ago. And I went back and watched his first few videos. And they're okay. But one of his videos now will get 60 million views. And the videos that he posted 10 years ago, I've gone and looked at them, and some of them only have like 25 or 30,000 views. And so even though now this guy's the biggest YouTuber in the world and he's famous in his niche and everyone loves him, like, no one's going back to see those old videos. And even though he's got all these followers, YouTube isn't serving those videos to other people. So only the content that he produces that is great is getting seen. So you really, like, don't need to worry. No one cares about your bad content.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Just before we move on, we want to talk a little bit about, obviously, what type of content. There's 2 main categories, organic and paid. Just want to see what questions we've got here. So, Digital Universe, which approach in online business would you recommend? Delivering online marketing services to clients, or to creating and selling various digital and physical products across various channels? So I guess what you're saying is, do you do a product or a service for businesses? Or are you selling a direct-to-consumer product? To be honest with you, I started with very little capital, so I just offered a service because you don't need a lot of capital to offer a service. And today we do a mix of both. So I'd say it depends on your capital, depends on your appetite for risk, depends on your knowledge as well. If you've got an amazing idea for a product, maybe give it a shot. I don't know. But I'd say starting a service business is just a great way to start, especially if you've got limited capital.
Yeah, I have a lot to say there. I find, so you and I are on opposite ends, because you've had an agency for almost a decade, and I had one brand business for a decade. And I remember meeting agencies, your agency, but other agencies as well. And I don't think your team ever said this, but I remember meeting other guys, and they said, "Do you know how much I would kill to just have one brand? Like, to take everything we've learned from dealing with clients and put that into just like my own businesses," which is now what you're doing, and it's great. And those businesses are doing well, and it's serving you. But what I missed from not serving clients was learning. And that's the thing, as you said, if you've got low capital and you want to grow and you want to end up having your own business, the best thing to do is to start some kind of consulting business where you can help other people, because you will see so much. Like, when you serve a business, it's inevitable that they will let you look under the hood, because you have to. You will see their sales systems, you will see their marketing stuff, you will look at their GP, and you'll understand how their business is run. And you get to see under the hood of, say, like, if you have 100 clients over 3 years, like, to have worked in 100 businesses and then once you've seen what works, then start your own company selling a product or service online. Like you are miles ahead of any competitors. So and the chances are you can use the business that you have to support in some way the business that you end up starting. So your consultancy can then serve the businesses that you buy. I'm speaking like I know, like
100%. But
no, what I mean is I'm basically talking about Yandre's business.
But like I think when we co-founded Loot, and when we co-founded Sentimental, that was on the back of working with 300 businesses over 6 years. And I think in essence, everybody thinks Loot is an overnight success. I mean, it's gone from 0 to projected to 200 million this year, but in essence, and we only own 25% of it. But the point is, essentially, that level of success of that business, that founder, it took him 10 years to build up that network, to understand that industry, to understand that level of product development. And for us, it took 10 years, to understand what not to do, how to market, how to position. So as much as people think it's an overnight success, it took 10 years to do that. And I think in your case, to your point as well, it's like you need to get the data. Like you need to, it's almost like a data collection exercise, and the more data you can collect, the better decisions you will make when it comes to starting your business or doing whatever you want to do. So you can collect a ton of data, and hopefully the quicker you can get, collect that data, the quicker you can make better decisions, and the quicker you can do what you need to do. So yeah, spot on, dude. Like I think it's almost like, I feel like starting a service business is a great place to start, and helping other people and learning from that is just increasing your odds of success down the line so much more. Just one last question before we move on. Zane Roberts, hey guys, thanks for hosting this live feed. We have a health and wellness lifestyle magazine that focuses holistically on wellness, connecting the medical community with everyday consumers. That goes on and says, we too are faced with the reality of needing to jump on board with content creation. However, the feeling is real in the reluctance of knowing what to say, share, yet we have to share so much to share. I think this is, Jono, where maybe you can just share that framework for Zane, and kind of like also talk about, I think you said it earlier, like when you pick 7 topics and tell the story in very different ways, I think that's 100% applicable to Zane and his situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the obvious thing is obviously entertain, empower, and educate. And if it's a health and wellness magazine, I'll be curious on what the business model is, because if it's magazine, then what I understand is all from an insurance company there. If you're selling advertising and that's the model, then the kind of content you're going to put out, you actually basically are a content engine, and you are providing eyes for people to place their brands on. But if you are selling a subscription, then it's different. But if I was going to go organic only and put content out, I would almost ask for contributors to the magazine to generate collaborative posts. Collaboration, especially on Instagram, you know more about TikTok than I do, Yandre, is the best way to get reach. And so you could probably get away with not producing your own content as much as you could get contributors to produce content and collab, so that you're then placing their content on your feed. This is if you've got like nothing content on your feed. And then what happens is when you collaborate, it goes onto your Instagram page and it goes onto theirs, and it's the same post. So you get to share a little bit of that glory. But in terms of the enemies, I mean, every wellness brand has its own flavor of enemy and clear vision for the future. And so documenting that, and then just citing what other experts have said, is like a very low risk entry point. And then there was something I watched with, I think it was the Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, and Russell Brunson webinar I watched once, where they said you've got like three different models of content creation. The one is when you are the expert, and so you talk about your findings, and that's what Tim Noakes did. He was the expert, and he spoke about his findings. And then the other is the learner, and the learner is basically very innocent approach, and is kind of always going, wow, I've just discovered this, or wow, I've just discovered this. And then the other one was the journalist approach. And the journalist is the one who is going and interviewing these different people and then reporting like what other people have said.
Diary
And pardon?
he's a Diary of a CEO, Steve Bartlett, I think. He's amazing at doing that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's exactly what he did, yeah.
Yeah, and so they each call for different levels of polish. I would say if you're an expert and a learner, you can actually be pretty unrefined, because the one is you're such a badass and content expert that anything you say is going to be great. So you can rely more on the value of your content than the quality of its production. Whereas if you are the journalist, your speciality is taking information that you've discovered and packaging it into neat and understandable nuggets for the viewers. And then there's obviously combinations of all of them. Tim Noakes often used to cite other people's studies. Someone who's learning out there eventually does develop a certain level of understanding of the content that they're working on. But I think that model is very helpful for understanding where you should start, not necessarily where you should finish.
Yeah, amazing. I think let's move on to just maybe unpacking the two types of content. I mean, when people create content, they just think Facebook posts, LinkedIn posts, Instagram reels, maybe a status update, or I don't know, carousel ad, or some people maybe just think ads. I think I'm the ad guy. Like, I was never really the organic guy, to be honest with you. I just felt I'm just way too lazy. Like, I feel like I'd rather create a piece of content once and just put money behind it. So I think like I'm a lazy. They call me a lazy marketer. So
Yeah.
you're trying to do the bare minimum with the most amount of impact, the 80-20 principle. But the most successful people do both, and they do both very aggressively. So I think that's I've learned, the hard way. It's not quality or quantity. It's always both. Always both. Can you do quality and quantity at the same time? And if you can do both, you're going to win. So some people go, no, do fewer, but do quality. And some people go, no, do more. It doesn't have to be that great quality. Just do volume. And I think you need to probably do both, because that's how you win. But anyway.
Also, I mean, I think my favorite thing is that you need to make sales. Like, sales have to happen. And if you've got a young company, you're going to make sales from running ads. And driving people to a very compelling sales page. And it doesn't need to be a fancy, cool brand. I think especially in Cape Town, everyone's always worried about like how beautiful everything looks. If they get capital, they want to rebrand instead of like invest in infrastructure and like more sales channels. So I think paid media is your best bet. Like, if you have to start tomorrow and you've got 50,000 Rand, I would pay to make a video ad and like a set of ads and sell the product with the balance using paid media. But if you've got sales coming through the door, then I think you need to start building brand, because as we said, that cost per acquisition is going to go up if you don't build brand as well. And you can get away with building a very loose brand. Like, I think when people think of brand, they think of this super cool like Louis Vuitton. If your brand is helping people lose weight, or cleaning people's dogs, posting success stories of helping people lose weight or cleaning dogs develops the brand for you as someone who solves that problem. So don't think that brand is this way that you look and this cool thing. Brand is often just reputation. And so if you're building a reputation, that is necessary, and you can do paid and organic of that. But my philosophy is paid first, and once you're getting sales, then move to organic. And just a point on both of those is that all paid does is shows your post to more people, whether it's a boosted post or a paid ad. At the end of the day, if your post gets no views and no reach, the chances are that exactly the same thing will happen when you put ad spend behind it. And so what people are looking at is average watch time, cost per click, click-through rate, and that is what they're looking at for paid ads. So if you create an ad, or if you create a post and it gets no reach, and then you think, oh no, we need to throw some ad spend behind it, you can guarantee that that thing will still get put into someone's news feed. But if it is an average piece of content, they will scroll past it. And so that's where the debate versus quantity and quality comes up. Like for me, if you're going to choose between 2 highly effective pieces of content a month or 1 every day that is average, and you put money behind those 2 campaigns. If you put money behind 2 really good pieces of content, or like the 2 best performing crap pieces of content over a 3-month period, it's obvious that you're going to generate more revenue off the same ad spend from the 2 pieces of great content. And so that's how I think people should look at it when you're looking at paid versus organic. Like the quality is independent of which of which channel you take, paid or organic.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been focusing on content myself for the last, and I'm still figuring it out. Like I'm by no means an organic content expert. Like I know when to like how to post and all those things, but I mean, to get attention, hold attention, and actually be able to go viral is a completely different thing. And I think there's a beautiful framework from Alex Hormozi, and there's a few people who've got a similar framework. So it's not, I think, uniquely his. But I think most content creators will say your piece of content, so we now know that we need to educate, we need to entertain, and we need to empower. But now, what is the actual framework of the piece of content that you're creating? So if you're going to create a piece of content and educate, what is the framework that you're going to use to make sure that that piece of education is actually something that's going to grab attention, hold attention, and get shared? Because so now it's the framework within the framework, if that makes sense. So the framework is 3 E's, and then you can go a little bit granular and going, cool, each piece of content, how do I look at that? And it is, step 1 is hook, step 2 is retain, step 3 is reward. So
the payoff.
Yeah, the payoff. So essentially, can you hook someone? And a hook is just the first 3 seconds or first 5 seconds of a video. The quicker, the better. And it's like, you really just have to have something that gets them to stop the thumb scroll, we call it on social media. Like you said, because if your first 3 or 4 seconds is not good, it's almost like the equivalent of a bad subject line in an email. It's like the subject line dictates whether the email gets opened or not. So a lot of people go, oh, we didn't get a lot of sales from that email campaign because maybe, we put the wrong product or the wrong offer. Well, maybe, but start with how many people actually opened up the email, because if people don't open the email, then nobody's going to know that you have a great offer inside. So if people
can comment on that as well.
Yeah, so I'm sure you can. Like, I think we both can, based on our experiences and stuff that we've realized. But and I'm going to give you a chance in a second. So in essence, if you can't hook attention, if you can't grab attention in the first 3 seconds of the video, people will scroll past. So no matter how much value lies on the other side of your video or inside the video or at level, second 20 or 30 or 40, wherever it may be, nobody's going to get there because you didn't grab their attention in the first place. Then the second thing is you need to be able to hold that attention, because if you start sharing value after 20 or 30 seconds, you have to hold attention up until that point so that they can actually get the value. So this framework is quite, effective in getting you to rethink how you produce the content or the video. And this is now specifically, obviously, for video, but it applies to everything. If you are going to write a piece of copy, the first sentence needs to grab their attention. And then you have to write a specific form to hold that attention. If you go onto V8's website page, you'll see it's psychologically written. Like there's enough, the line height is higher than most websites. The font is bigger than most websites. There's a lot of white space. There's short sentences. Every sentence is in a new line. All of that is psychologically engineered in order to retain attention. The headline grabs the attention. The way the content is written holds the attention. And then we have a call to action button, obviously, as well. It gets people to go, hey, I want to click further and read more. So I think it's just all of these things it goes over our heads, but it's actually not that complicated. But you can simplify it with work. Sorry, you wanted to just share a story or a perspective on this matter.
Yeah, well, it was just adding color to your point about email headlines. I think if you look at any piece of content when in terms of hook, the story and then the payoff. If you think about a piece of content as a joke that you are telling, then you will see that you should never put the punchline of the joke in the hook, because if someone if someone tells the punchline of a joke while you're telling it, you instantly like rage. You're like, well, you just bombed my joke, and no one's going to listen to the end. And the biggest mistake I have seen in emails, and the biggest mistake I've seen in thumbnails of videos and in the hook, is when people say something like, carrots make your eyes better as the email thing. And then I'm like, I'm not even going to open that email because I know exactly what I'm going to find out from the email. But if you said, you won't believe this cheap ingredient that can transform your eyesight, you're like, okay, now I'm going in. And then the body is going to be something like, we have looked at 500 different eyesight improvement techniques, and this one still stands out as the best. This scientist from such and such, who's analyzed 25,000 peer-reviewed studies, came to the conclusion that what keratin or whatever is the magic ingredient. I can't remember what it is in carrots. And then you say, and that is found in the simple carrot. That's the payoff. Okay, you kept me all the way to the end. And then if it's in an email, you don't even give it in the email. You say, after 10,000 studies on eyesight, we have finally found the conclusion for what ingredient improves your eyesight. Click here to read the article so that they click through. I think the hook and the payoff, like if people could just understand that they should never ever give the payoff in the hook, I think the whole world will produce better content and at least more engaging content like immediately.
No, I agree. And I think that's exactly it. It's like we live in a world where you have to grab someone's attention. Without it, nothing is going to happen. You have to hold that attention. Otherwise, nobody's going to get to where they need to get to. And then obviously there needs to be something valuable in terms of a payoff. So I think great insight there. And we probably, in the beginning when I started doing email marketing, oh man, I bought a list of 60,000 subscribers, email subscribers or whatever. And funny enough, I don't believe in doing that anymore, but this was now in 2012. And the first email I sent was like a subject line this long. And it was just like all caps, looked like a super corporate email. And the email itself was just, if I look at it now, it's just so cringe. And I was like, yo, you should never buy an email list because, it just doesn't work. And then I had an expert come to me and go, listen, if you need to change your subject line a little bit, you need to understand this, you need to understand that. And I was like, all the light bulb moments went on. And funny enough, that same email list ended up making me thousands of rands because I started understanding the power of writing a good story, writing in a way that grabs attention and holds attention. And I think that applies to everything we do. If you're running an ad, same thing. If you're creating a piece of organic content, same thing. If you're writing a piece of copy, same thing. It's all about grabbing attention, holding attention, and delivering a payoff at the end. That's just marketing in general, right? So even if you had to apply that theory to a retail store, so you imagine you walk in, right? If you have a direct-to-consumer product, your goal is to create the product and design it in such a way and package it in such a way that if someone is going to walk past it, they're going to want to look at it because they can't help but to, because it just stands out from the rest. So that is essentially you grabbing someone's attention. And we've done that with Loot, and we've done it quite successfully. Like it's the packaging is amazing, the branding is amazing. And I'm not saying that there's the most, it doesn't work for everybody, but that's definitely one of the reasons why sell-through rate on shelves is a little bit more effective than most other companies. And then essentially once you've grabbed someone's attention, they look at the product and they go, oh, this looks cool. Let me see what this is about. Now you educate. Now you have to follow the same recipe. You have to retain the attention and go, what does the word say? Is it objective? Is it clear? Is it easy to understand? Is it easy to read? What is the benefits of this? How will it transform my life if I do use it? And then essentially, the payoff is a mix between the information on the product and the price, and in a way that they can feel I can afford this, and then give it a shot, and then they end off with the result and the benefit hopefully as well. So I think in a way like that framework applies to almost everything we do. whether it's a conversation. If you had to be speaker on stage, they're going to tell you the same thing. Open up with something that grabs people's attention. Like you have to get people to stand up or move around and say hello or tell a joke. And the reason people tell jokes is to wake people up and get them to feel a little bit more relaxed. So this has been a framework that's been living in our lives, or it's been a part of our lives for probably centuries. It's just that it's just a little bit more nuanced to every single type of medium or content that you decide to produce. But the macro framework remains the same always, I believe.
Yeah. Another factor that I always found difficult to stick to in the beginning was a single point, to focus on a single point. And we often want to tell everyone so much about our business, but to rest assured that you will have many other opportunities to create social media posts, and know that in this social media post, you're just focusing on that specific pain point or hook, that specific story, and that specific payoff. Because people can't pay attention for more than 45 seconds or 60 seconds. They want to know like the hook, let's have a little background, and poof, the payoff. And if they like it, they'll click on your profile and go and get some more nuggets. But it's so easy to lose them.
100%. And I think this question I'm showing now is actually quite applicable, because it says, Stefan van Heerden, I just started my own web design agency focusing on USA clients. What will you guys suggest will be the best approach to get leads and sales? So Stefan, the reason I think this is applicable to our conversation right now is because the tactic that I would use, or the strategy that I would use, is called email marketing. So I would go and scrape every single agency's domain on tools out there that you can use, then use something like snob.io or apollo.io in order to get their names, emails, and contact numbers. And I would clean that list. I would warm up some domains, and then I would essentially then do a cold marketing email campaign. And what that essentially means is that you're sending emails on a monthly basis to these companies offering your service. And I mean, I think at V8 we send to overseas clients, agencies, probably 10,000 emails a week, if I'm not mistaken. And this is done in an automated fashion. And the reason I feel this is contextual is because if you're going to do cold email, what is going to make or break the efficacy of it is subject line, what you say in the body of the email, and essentially what the payoff is. What are you going to offer them? What benefit are they going to actually get if they click on a link to book a call, or something like that? And I think if your subject line is crap, the open rates are going to be terrible. That means that the reply rate will be terrible. So if the open rate is good, what do you say in that email? And you need to keep in mind that these kind of people, they get emails all the time, unsolicited emails all the time. So they're going to be just spammed they're just going to feel like you're spamming them. Therefore, your subject line has to be unique. It has to be different. Your body has to be different. The way you position your offer and your services has to be different. And this is exactly what we're saying now, right? Is that really hook, retain, payoff. And I think if you can get that right with your emails, then you should be able to get some calls and hopefully close some deals for your agency. Just on to another quick question from Hunain, I think, Malik, if that is pronounced correctly. If not, I'm truly sorry. Quick question, guys. I love both of y'all's content and analytical breakdowns of business. If I'm a new university, how to increase consumer engagement to get my name out there through social media? John, you want to take it?
Yeah, I wanted to finish off the answer for the previous question, then we'll address this because I got a lot more questions. But just the other thing which you said was to have an offer. I think if you're going into a new country, the most important thing is to have a case study, especially with Americans, to show that you can service an American company. And so my thing would be, if you don't have an American case study already, to do anything you can to get one, whether it's a discount or free, and then develop a case study and a compelling offer. And I was talking to someone about this yesterday. When it comes to developing an offer that is specifically targeted at solving a specific problem that these agencies have, or that these people in America have, to go super laser focused on something that is very easy for them to understand and very easy for them to buy, because that usually lights up their interest. And And I'll give you an example. When I launched my production company, I wanted something that people would be able to buy very quickly because I knew I was competing with loads of other production companies. And so I developed this thing called the 48-hour ad. And I sent it out to my email database. I said, hey guys, we can develop you a video ad set in 48 hours. And that had two benefits. The one was it was a super easy to understand thing. It showed people that I understood the internet, that I understood video production, and I understood sales. And I ended up getting a lot of work from that, and not a single person bought the 48-hour ad. So sometimes it is more important to have a package that is very easy to position towards a certain customer than it is to actually sell that package. As long as the package sums up roughly what you will be able to do for the client, they will probably always opt for a bespoke version, especially if you are new to the game. If you've been doing it for years, you can have you end up being able to productize it. But off the bat, to just have an idea of a productized version and sell that as a solution is a very easy way to start. Okay. With the university, how to get your name out there for a whole university. First, for me, I always want to understand who the customer is and what their main problem is that they are solving. I know that when it comes to universities, what really matters to people in online education or in education in general is, firstly, mature students are more interested in what they will learn and the results they will be able to achieve from their knowledge. Younger students who are working professionals or who are beginning their education journey typically care more about signaling. So how prestigious the brand of certification is, and how that will make them look to other people. So my guess would be to understand who that customer is and post about the kind of outcomes that they want. So people who learned this framework through us were able to achieve X results at work. Having one-on-one conversations like this, and then running them through something like Opus Clip to get summarized clips of students with students talking about their journeys, or to have faculty who run certain courses come and talk about their subject matter, and then cut nuggets up from these faculty giving lectures and posting those on the channels. But again, if you're appealing, and that's if you're appealing to people who need the knowledge. If you're appealing to people who need the certification, you'd be wanting to talk about how prestigious the certification is. So telling the story of how this brand of university is growing and becoming more prestigious. It now got these credits. It's now awarded people who are in our university and carry their credits into Oxford and Cambridge. We have an exchange program with this other university, that kind of thing, if that makes sense. So you want to be talking to the brand of the university slightly more than the outcomes of the students. But at the end of the day, the outcomes of the students is going to be your main hook. That's what people want. What can I earn? What can I achieve? And what doors will this open for me?
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think the best way to, in my opinion, amplify that and scale that in a way that you get predictable leads and hopefully sales for the business would just be to run Facebook lead form ads or Facebook traffic ads. Landing lead, we call it lead ads, but traffic ads technically to a page where you just collect that inquiries. So you're going to have that as part of the ad strategy, and then you're going to point all that traffic either to a landing page or a lead form. Like we've seen universities kill it with lead forms, as long as you have a really good sales process. You need a proper CRM, you need some automations, you need a sales team to phone these people and communicate with them, because lead forms are so cool. You're collecting an email, a contact number, someone's needs, objectives, and goals, and you can use that information down the line. So even if they don't say yes, you still have the email. You can still keep them up to date about their accreditation, changes. Maybe you've leveled up. Maybe something's happened. Maybe the campus has expanded. Maybe you're offering new services. So I like collecting emails and contact numbers. I just think that that's something I love doing, because that's just always ROI positive in my mind.
One thing I can add to selling education is that the outcome, you should never, ever talk about the work someone is going to have to do while they are getting certified. Because people, when they buy a course, they want the outcome. And so if you're not university accredited, that outcome that you're selling needs to be equated to a saving or a specific result. And we touched on this last week when we were talking about Alex Hormozy. People want to have the maximum benefit. They want to know that they will be able to achieve that benefit. They want to know that they will go through as little effort as possible and it'll be as fast as possible. And so if you're selling a non-university accredited course, you have to position the outcome as something that they really want, and you have to frame the course, or at least that course needs to offer an outcome. So instead of like understanding business strategy, the outcome of the course needs to be to have a complete, actionable business strategy document that all of your staff will understand and be able to execute on. Like that is something that people buy. And typically people will pay whatever they can equate that to being worth. So if you can say to someone, look, it's going to cost you $10,000, but our customers who have done this have managed to increase their revenue by between $100,000 and $500,000 a year from doing this course. So it's like, it's a 1 to 500 multiple. That's easy to understand.
Yeah.
And then if you look at university accredited courses, people value the brand. So I'll give an example. Like my mentor, he actually ran Get Smarter, which was a very successful online education company in South Africa. And they ended up selling it for about $100 million to a listed company in America. And they got really good at selling university accredited online courses. And they ran courses in South Africa that sold for 15,000 Rand. That was the peak they could get people to pay for a university accredited online course in South Africa. This is like a few years back. And then they partnered with international universities. So they were selling courses for MIT, Oxford, Harvard. I think it ended up being over 20 universities. And the first course they ran internationally was with MIT. And they sold that course for $2,400. And it was a 6-week course, which used to be, and the UCT courses were 12 weeks. And what they realized was that people didn't care how long the course was for them. What they cared about was the certificate that they got at the end. And so in that case, they weren't interested in their ability to obtain the knowledge. They weren't interested in like what they would be able to do with it. They just wanted to know that they could go to their boss with an MIT certificate, and they realized like, okay, and people are willing to pay $2,400 for this. So understanding what your end customer really wants. Is it legitimacy to move up in the ranks, or is it that they want to actually be able to drive their business? I buy courses so that I can learn. Like, I'm not interested in being accredited by anyone. I want the knowledge that I can execute. So I'm a different customer to the one who wants the certificate. I don't know about you, Andre.
I mean, I'm not going to do anything with it, right? So, but I'm going to be able to use the skills in order to keep growing and scaling. So, love it. I agree. I think we're wrapping up almost like you probably got like 15 minutes left before I have a hard stop, unfortunately.
Can you talk about UGC ads versus UGC versus professionally produced ads?
Yeah, so I think there's two things I want to cover before we log off. Is first of all, what kind of content should you be creating? Like, you mean specifically like short form, long form, Instagram Reels, TikTok, whatever it is. And so that, at least from my point of view, we don't have to linger on this for too long, but short form content I think is where all the attention is right now, like Instagram Reels, TikTok, and obviously on LinkedIn you can do articles, and you can do some. So it depends on your business. There's a lot of nuances, but I think if you're selling a direct to consumer service, if you're selling a direct to consumer service, I want to highly encourage you to think about short form content, which is 30 to 60 to 90, maximum 90 seconds of videos that you create. The reason that's so powerful is it does so much for your business. It gives people an idea of who you are. If you're doing like a talking head video, which is just you talking to the camera, or the people in the video itself, they associated with the company. So that's a level of authenticity and trust and credibility. But at the same time, you have an opportunity to get shown to brand new eyeballs, brand new customers and consumers. because the Instagram and TikTok algorithm has changed over the last few years, where it's used to just show your content to followers, and based on the followers' engagement, it will show it to new followers, potential new followers. Now it's really just, if you've got a good piece of content, it's going to go out into the world, and whoever is resonating to that piece of content based on an algorithmic formula will be shown that content. Like, so if there's someone associated with that type of content based on their engagements or behaviors on the platform, there's a good chance that they'll be able to see that content. And obviously, how you hook people, grab attention, hold attention, and actually get people to watch the whole video, which we call watch time. The longer the watch time, the more the algorithm will actually favor you, and the more the algorithm will push you up to out to new people. So in essence, you won't get someone to watch the whole video if you can't hook them. That's why the hook is important. You can't get someone to watch the full video if you can't retain their attention, and nobody's going to share it if there's not an actual payoff or a benefit at the end of the video. So if you can do those three things with short form content, I think you've got a really good chance of getting a lot of attention on your brand and business, and potentially just new eyeballs. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that long form content like this, you and me, I mean, this is not to really expand our reach as much as it is to build trust and credibility and show people who we really are as human beings. Live through authenticity, because you can't fake a live. I can't fake this. Like, I can't go and edit my voice or what I said, or there's a level of authenticity which I enjoy with lives, and I just like engaging with people and adding value. But this is a strategy. Like, let's be clear. Like, this is also a strategy for both of us. At the end of the day, and for everybody who does a live, they told you they're just doing lives because they love it. Like, there's usually a bigger picture behind it. Like, let's be real. But luckily for us, I think it's 50-50. Like, I really enjoy creating content, and so do you, and that's why we have authentic and great conversations. But at the same time, I think people need to understand that long form content is more about building trust, and you want to be more of yourself and more of the brand and behind the scenes and that whatever you want to do. And short form content is more about just grabbing attention, because there's no context, there's no nuances that you can really address in a very short piece of content. So therefore, the longer form content can educate more and add more value, but that's usually for people who have an idea of who you are already. No, nuances, people can discover you on YouTube, and they can go and find your videos and all that kind of stuff. That's very possible. But I'm just actually sharing my perspective and my strategy. My strategy is short form content to find new people, get those people to, leave the email address in exchange for a piece of content or value or an ebook or lead magnet or whatever it is. And then I use my mailing list and the YouTube channel in order to create more longer form videos and behind the scenes videos like the vlog that we're doing, in order to authentically build more trust and credibility with the audience that's already expressed interest in who I am and what I do. And that's just my take on that. I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, I think, if you just go today while you are going about your business and you think there's someone that you want to use, even if it is a plumber, electrician, a marketing agency, and how people make decisions these days is they will type that name into Google or into Instagram, and then the names that come up are usually maybe the first 5 people on Google are the ones they'll come up with. If they go into YouTube or Instagram, they'll usually only look at the first 5. If I'm using someone, I will do the same thing, and I will go and look at their social media page. And if someone has posted this week, I will watch that post, but I'm immediately impressed. I'm like, okay, they're active, they're on it, they care about this business. But if someone once set up the page and they haven't posted in like 7 or 8 years, I start to think like, what's happening with it? Is this like a side hustle? Are they super interested and invested? And so even if your posts aren't getting a lot of reach, it's still valuable to have posts on your social media page regularly enough, because even if you're not finding people with your content, people who do find you, like if I get a referral from a friend via WhatsApp, I'm going to type that name into the internet to see what their website looks like and to see what they're doing on social media. And I will usually be more inclined to go with the person who is visible, who has visibility. I've seen the founder's face online. I kind of know what they're about. They look like a nice enough person, and now I'm going to use them. So I think my only other comment there is that even posting bad content from time to time keeps you current, it keeps you up to date. So basically, you've got no excuse. You got to post.
You got to post, man. I think, yeah, and then just final thoughts and rounding up. I think we spoke about, a lot of people have questions like, do you do really well produced content? It's going to cost you 10, 20, 30 grand to do, and it's one video, and or maybe sometimes more, depending on who you use and what you're trying to achieve. Or do you just go UGC route, which is just user generated content where you give someone a product and they talk about it in a very nonchalant setting? And I think, like, for us, to be honest with you, it depends on your goals. I think if you can do both, great. But if you have a limited budget, there's just something really powerful about UGC content, because one, it doesn't cost you much, purely because you sometimes can just offer the product to someone in exchange for feedback, and they can record that feedback and do an unboxing or a review or whatever it may be. But the level of trust and credibility that comes with it for now is quite, is quite decent. For now, I think we're going to live in a world 5 years from now where people are not going to trust UGC content anymore, because they know everybody is just saying what they need to say in order to keep the brand happy. I want to, as much as I don't want to think about it, I think that's true. Like, we as marketers ruin everything for everyone. So essentially, UGC content is great for now, and I think there's a lot of trust and credibility behind it, but it's definitely not going to stay there, for the future. But for now, it's working. And I think the reason it's working is because someone else is saying things about your brand that gives someone an idea of going, oh, this is what he's used. This is how it's affected his life. It's his story. And that builds a lot more trust and credibility. It's almost like a word of mouth kind of initiative. So if someone else is talking about the brand, because the moment a brand talks about themselves, people kind of like the bullshit radar increases. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, we have superior ingredients. Like, we are the best. We number one in South Africa. It's like, we the top. It's like, okay, great. The bullshit meter is high because we know you're trying to sell us something. But when someone else says good things about you, or average things about you, or authentically, things about you, then the level of trust is a bit higher. It's like, oh, it's not the brand saying this to me. It's someone else. Okay, cool. Let me hear what they have to say. What was their experience? And I think that's what makes UGC content so powerful. It's trust, credibility, and affordability all in one. And obviously, with that 60-second or 90-second UGC piece of content, you can tell a story. The audience can resonate with the type of scenario that the person is finding themselves in, whether it's going for a run and then talking about the product, or unboxing, or whatever it may be. So, I mean, that's my take. I think there's definitely always going to be a place for high production content. I really believe that. But for now, I think for small to medium-sized businesses, you want to make your money go further. And if you want to make your money go further, I feel like UGC might be the way to go.
Yeah, totally. I think UGC is going to end when AI gets really good at doing it. Like, I already don't trust AI-generated ads, and I've seen some UGC ads that are made using AI, and I'm like instantly turned off. So I think just to add color to that, like, the reason UGC works is because it's real, and usually UGC content is poorer production quality, which people connect with more. So I think the future of advertising is going to be in like how raw and real, like bad lighting, bad skin, stuttering over your words, like anything that indicates that it's real is going to get more reach. And it wouldn't surprise me if we start getting more CEOs of C-suite positions in corporates getting down and dirty in content creation as well. I think that's where it's going.
I believe that 100%. I think we're going to live in a world where people want authentic experiences, whatever that might look like. And anything in your video that can create that will, I believe, do well. I think AI is great for now. And I mean, AI is going to help us a lot, and it's going to make companies more efficient and more productive and more profitable. And it's going to help us do all kinds of cool stuff. But as marketers, we kind of have to look at where are we now and what's happening, and what does the trend look like over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think, considering that AI can help you create content at scale, it means everybody is going to scale their levels of content, which means there's going to be so much noise in the world, and everything in some way, shape, or form will then be artificial. So the question is, can you trust artificial messages, You know what I'm saying? Like, can you actually trust if someone has produced a Lamborghini video with AI? It's really cool, but I know it's not the real car. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's a fake car in so it's like everything in this video is technically fake. So how can I believe that I'm gonna have this exact same experience? Now, maybe it's a bad example because when you see a Lamborghini, you obviously know that they're a real brand and they've got real products. But let's use a brand that people don't know. You know, if it was, let's say, BYD just came out and people didn't know who they were, and we knew that all their shit was artificial intelligence, type of content, AI type of content, and you're gonna go like, how do I really know that this brand is really that good? How do I know that the car can actually do all these things because it's technically AI? So I think people are going to start question whether things are really legit or not. They're going to go, can the product really do this? Because this is an AI person that's prompted a script. It's an AI generated product. It's an AI generated image. So how can I really believe that that is going to affect my life? And if you think about people's mindset, it's, do I have the money to buy the product? And is the product really, what is the probability of when I give you the money that the product's going to help me achieve the certain goal that I have or the certain benefit that I want? And if it's AI, I think that question is going to be more pressing because people are going to go, how do I know if I'm going to give my money to this brand? And looking at the fact that the piece of information they're sharing is artificial, what guarantee is there? What kind of trust element is there to know that I'm going to get that same effect when I take it? And I think that's quite interesting on how we're going to navigate that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very exciting time to be alive. I'm not going to lie. I was definitely terrified when AI came out, and it's absolutely like I don't think there's anything to be afraid of. I think there's a lot to be embraced, and there's a lot of learning potential. I think I know we've got to wrap it up, but my parting comment on that is like, I think if you're using AI to show your product doing things that perhaps you can't film, then that's probably disingenuous. But if you're using AI to like add effects and stuff to a video, for instance, like to add in a sunset, or I don't know, you can't afford a model, so you create an AI model, and she's getting into the Lamborghini, but the footage of the Lamborghini is still real. I think that's acceptable. But like when you have an AI generated UGC influencer talking in an AI generated voice about a product, like that's like you can't do that. Just don't do it.
Look, I mean, for now, as marketers, like I say, we ruin everything for everyone, right? So we use AI and we're doing all these cool things, but at some point, again, I've realized everything that has worked stopped working at some point, and that's just how it is. That's one thing we can take away, marketers, is whatever's working now is not going to work forever. So this is what's working now. Make the most of it, and then just pay attention to what's continuously working and do more of that.
So my parting comment for today, Yandre, is that no matter how uncomfortable you are, and no matter how much it makes you squirm, pull out your phone, sit somewhere nice where there's decent light, and just say one fact.
To prove that you're real.
Yeah, just say one fact that your customers don't usually know, and share that on a social media page of your business. Just do that one thing and see how you feel.
Amazing. Thanks for your time, dude, and thanks for the value and the nuggets. Thanks everybody for watching. Unfortunately, I've got a hard stop now. I've got a meeting starting, and then I want to say much love to all of you, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks, Rana.
Cheers. Thanks, man. Check you next week.
Cheers. Bye.